Opening scene: the cafe was nothing special. Worn wooden tables, the hum of espresso machines, the low murmur of people lost in their own conversations. But he noticed her the moment she walked in, not because she matched the magazine cover, the image of perfection, but because something about her energy shifted the room. She wasn't dressed to impress. She wasn't trying to be noticed, and yet she was impossible to ignore. Most men wouldn't glance twice. She didn't fit the exaggerated beauty standard plastered across billboards and movie screens. Her figure was lean, her chest smaller than what pop culture taught him to expect. But as she laughed with the barista, there was a lightness, a confidence, an ease that made him forget every so-called rule about attraction he thought he knew. Why? Did she feel magnetic when she defied the stereotype? What was it that pulled his attention like gravity? Couldn't explain it, not yet. But what he didn't realize was that this moment would unravel years of societal conditioning and reveal one of the most misunderstood truths about human attraction. And that truth starts with the psychology of perception, a truth that might change the way you see beauty forever. Part 2. The myths society sold us. From the time we're young, we're fed a diet of images and ideals, glossy magazine covers, perfectly lit movie scenes, and social media feeds saturated with one version of beauty. The message is clear: bigger is better, curves are currency, and deviation from that. Standard is a flaw. We don't just consume these messages, we internalize them, letting them shape how we see others and how we see ourselves. But here's the problem. What we've been sold isn't truth. It's marketing. For decades, advertising has weaponized insecurity. The idea that beauty could be packaged, measured, and sold became the foundation of entire industries. And in that process, subtler forms of beauty were overshadowed, dismissed, or completely erased from the spotlight. Men, too, aren't immune to this conditioning. They learn to associate certain physical traits with desirability without ever questioning where those associations came from. They don't realize that what they think is natural attraction is often a learned bias shaped by decades of repetition. But history tells a different story. Across different cultures and time periods, beauty ideals have shifted dramatically. In some societies, a leaner figure with smaller breasts was celebrated as a sign of youth, agility, and even nobility. In others, physical modesty was linked to purity, trustworthiness, and approachability. The point: standards change. Human attraction is far more adaptable than we've been led to believe. And yet, knowing that doesn't break the spell. These myths run deep. They influence first impressions, dating choices, and even self-worth. Which begs the question, if attraction isn't just about biology, and it isn't just about marketing, then what is it really about? That's where the psychology of perception comes in. And once you see how it works, you'll never look at beauty the same way again. Part 3. The psychology of perception. Perception isn't just about what we see. It's about what our brain decides that sight means. Every glance we take is filtered through layers of personal experience, cultural influence, and evolutionary wiring. The same image can trigger entirely different reactions in two different people, because perception is never neutral. When it comes to breast size and attraction, our minds work like silent editors. We scan, compare, and judge not consciously, but instinctively, using both ancient survival instincts and modern social programming. Evolutionary psychology suggests that, in the distant past, certain physical traits might have signaled fertility or health. But here's the twist. In modern environments, those signals can be misleading, even irrelevant. Yet our subconscious still responds as if we're living in the Stone Age. Layered on top of this ancient coding is the powerful influence of social conditioning. From the moment we begin absorbing media, family opinions, and peer comments, we start building an internal attraction template. For some men, that template locks onto the idea of larger breasts as a sign of maturity or sensuality. For others, smaller breasts become linked with youthfulness, athleticism, and approachability. Neither is universal. Both are learned. Real-world studies reveal surprising nuances. In surveys, when men were asked to describe women, they found approachable or relatable. Many unconsciously described traits often linked with smaller breasts without ever mentioning chest size at all. This shows how perception can influence attraction indirectly, shaping feelings without the person realizing it, and perception works both ways. Women with smaller breasts often experience the world differently from the way clothing fits, to how strangers engage in conversation, to the subtle cues of respect or underestimation they pick up in workplaces. These lived experiences feed back into self-perception, reinforcing confidence in some, and self-consciousness in others. Understanding these psychological layers is key to unraveling why attraction isn't as simple as big or small. But knowing the mechanics is only the start, because perception doesn't just influence who we find attractive. It also shapes how we behave around them, what we assume about them, and even what we believe they're capable of. And that's where the story takes a sharper turn, into the 10 specific ways smaller breasts shape both perception and reality, each with its own unexpected twist. Part 4. The 10 perception shifts. Each of the 10 ways smaller breasts influence perception isn't just a fact, it's a story. It's a subtle shift in how people see and interact with one another. And when you hear them in full, you'll start noticing them in everyday life. 1. The athletic association in gyms. On running trails and in yoga studios, women with smaller chests often blend into the image of the athletic type. This isn't always about reality. Some may be athletes, others may not, but perception fills in the blanks. The leaner frame becomes shorthand for stamina, agility, and discipline. But here's the hidden cost. Sometimes this assumption can overshadow other traits, boxing them into a category they never chose. Point 2. Freedom in motion. Ask any runner or dancer. Less weight in the chest often means less physical discomfort. But in the social mind, this practicality becomes symbolic. It says, I'm active. I move freely. I'm untethered. For some, that's magnetic. For others, it challenges the expectation that beauty should be ornamental, not functional. 3. The youth effect. From an evolutionary lens, smaller breasts can read as younger, not in age, but in energy. This can tilt first impressions, making some interactions warmer, while in other contexts, it can trigger underestimation or even condescension. Point 4. Fashions. Hidden bias. Garment design often favors smaller busts. This opens doors to style choices without costly tailoring. Yet, this same advantage subtly feeds into perceptions of elegance, simplicity, or minimalism, labels that might stick even when they don't fit the whole person. 5. The authenticity. Signaling a culture hyper-aware of cosmetic alterations. Smaller breasts are often read as natural, whether that's true or not. For those drawn to authenticity, this can be a quiet but powerful pull. Point 6. Reduced objectification in certain spaces. Studies suggest that in professional environments, smaller breasts may attract less overt sexual objectification. That's not immunity from bias, far from it. But it shifts the nature of the bias. 7. Rest and recovery advantages. Sleep comfort might seem trivial, but the ability to rest in any position without discomfort affects health, mood, and daily energy, all of which influence how someone presents themselves socially. 8. Approachability in the male. Mind in attraction studies. Some men link smaller chests with lower intimidation. This isn't about the woman herself. It's about the mental image the man has constructed before he's even spoken to her. 9. Confidence in supportive environments. In cultures valuing diverse body types, women with smaller breasts often report higher body satisfaction. But the key word here is environment. In less accepting cultures, the same trait can become a source of insecurity. 10. No link to intimacy. Quality science dismantles one of the most persistent myths. Breast size doesn't determine sexual satisfaction. For either partner, confidence, chemistry, and communication matter infinitely more. These 10 shifts aren't rules, they're patterns. And in the next part, we'll explore how these patterns collide with real life, sometimes in uplifting ways, sometimes in ways that quietly shape destiny. Part 5. real-life collisions, and social dynamics. The 10 perception shifts aren't just academic concepts, they manifest in real life, often in subtle but impactful ways. Let's walk through some examples to understand how these patterns influence relationships, careers, self-perception. 1. The workplace lens. A woman walks into a boardroom, her presence commanding yet unassuming. Her smaller chest means fewer whispers about appearance, allowing colleagues to focus on her ideas. She's evaluated for her performance, her decisions, her intellect. Yet she's also sometimes underestimated in strength or assertiveness. A double-edged sword. 2. The dating stage and social settings. Smaller breasts can make a woman appear approachable, creating unexpected opportunities for authentic connections. A man might feel less intimidated, leading to deeper conversation early on. But biases run deep, and some still carry subconscious preferences, creating tension when assumptions clash with reality. 3. The fashion. Statement clothing becomes a playground for self-expression. Smaller breasts,